Now, some of you might not be sure what inking actually means, but it's just going in there with your outlining pen. I'm using 0.05 copic outliner, and it's just going over your pencil drawing with your inking outliner. And you will always do this before colouring with copic, otherwise the pencil will smudge. So you'll just try and go over your pencil drawing as accurately as possible. With the eye, I find that it helps if you use a kind of feathering motion to make the eyes look fluffy, and also works as eyelashes. Now, you don't want to ink in the highlights of the eye because you'll be going over that with a white ink pen when you colour. You can also go over with your 0.03, and that's finer actually than the 0.05, surprisingly. You're just going to thicken the edges of your inking along where everything joins up, and that will get you a really cool looking comic type ink outline. And just ink in the middle of the eye for an outline for your iris, and this will also help when you colour the eye, and it just looks really nice. You don't have to, that is optional. For the nose, just try and keep that as thin as possible, so use your 0.03, but you can also thicken up part of the base of the nose. Same with the mouth, you'll want to thicken up where all of the lines meet, and this will give your inking and your drawing overall a lot more depth, and it will tend to look a little bit more professional. This will probably take a fair bit of practice to know how thick you will be wanting to make your lines, and for a steady hand you will probably need a fair bit of practice. So once again, with your finer 0.03, thicken up the lines where they all meet. Especially at the base of the neck, I tend to make the lines quite thick and add some shadowing, because then it's that much more shadowing you don't have to do with your colouring. Now, you don't have to do all of the lines in one single stroke. You can stop and then continue, but I find that it helps if you do that, like where other lines meet, and then it's not quite so obvious if the lines don't match up perfectly. So once again, making your lines nice and thick at the bases and adding more depth and shadowing, which can also be in the middle of a line with hair. Adds more depth and makes your drawing overall look a lot nicer. Now, this is probably the more time consuming part of your drawing. It is not personally my favourite part. I do like the drawing and colouring process much better than the inking, but unfortunately it is a necessary evil. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, but your drawing will look so much better at the end. Just thicken the lines on the flower and her hair. Now, for the thinner lines, you'll generally want to keep them quite thin, apart from a few that you'll thicken up. Just adds more detail. Just follow the lines in your drawing as best you can.
Flipping your fins, you don't get too far. Legs are required for jumping, dancing.